What if everything you are taught about the origins of your faith was incomplete? What if the God you pray to, the scriptures you read, the spiritual concepts you hold sacred, what if they didn't begin in Jerusalem, Rome, or Mecca, but in Africa? Not as a conspiracy, not as an attack on your faith, but as the fullest, most complete picture of where the spiritual truth actually began. Today, we are exploring the groundbreaking work of Dr. Chike Akua, The African Origin of Our Faith. This is the book that I'm talking about, and this is the second edition of The African Origin of Our Faith. Now, this second edition has been revised and expanded. I haven't read the first edition, so I can't speak of the first edition. So just have a copy. It's an easy to read book. Even if you don't like reading, I bet you will enjoy reading this book. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we explore this construction from Christianity to free up the minds of the people. And now we're going to add on exploring the intersections of African history, spirituality, and identity. And the stories that were buried, burned, and deliberately forgotten. So hit that subscribe button. This is the kind of content the algorithm doesn't always push. So sharing this video is an act of cultural preservation. So let's get into it. Dr. Chike Akua holds a PhD in educational leadership. He's a professor, an author, and what I'd call a spiritual archaeologist. Someone who digs beneath the surface of what we've been handed and asks the harder question: where did this actually come from? His book, The African Origins of Our Faith, is not anti-Christian. It's not anti-Islam. It's not even anti-Jewish. In his own words, Dr. Akua says this quest has been for us actually, melanated people that originated from Africa, to see our oneness in the Most High. This book is a bridge and not a bomb, so it's not attacking any religion whatsoever. And it's built on one of the most extraordinary scholarship comparisons ever assembled. A side-by-side analysis of 55 ancient Kemetic sacred texts and 55 biblical scriptures that share the same sentiments, concepts, and spiritual truth, with over 1,000 years apart. So let that sink in. Before we go further, let's establish something important. When I say Kemet, or when we say Kemet, we are talking about the ancient Egyptians, what they call their own land, not Egypt. That's a Greek name. The original people called it Kemet, meaning the black land, and the people of Kemet were African people. Now, if you have an issue with that, well, go kick rocks. And if you currently reside there and you think I'm attacking you, also go kick rocks. We all know the history, so we're not going to dispute this, because this is not disputed by serious Egyptologists. The ancient Kemet civilization, one of the oldest and most sophisticated in human history, was built by Africans on African soil along the Nile River. They had complex spiritual systems, sacred texts, a theology, a cosmology, concepts about the divine, about the soul, about life after death, about morals or moral accountability. And Dr. Akua's central argument is this: these concepts didn't disappear. They traveled. They traveled through the conquest, through trade, through cultural exchange. The spiritual wisdom of Kemet became the bedrock upon which the world's greatest religions were built upon, or built on. Now, one of the most powerful sections of this work is what I call the language trail, because if you want to know where an idea came from, follow the words. Just like if you want to know who controls what, follow the money. Let's start with one that will, I think, in my own mind, will blow your mind. In ancient Kemet, they used the word ka to describe spiritual double, the divine essence within every human being, the soul. From ka came the word karasat. Or karasat. I don't know how they pronounce things, but it's karasat. And this is used in Gnostic tradition to describe the anointed one, the divine being. Karasat was then adopted into Greek as Christos, and Christos became Christ. Let that sink in. The word Christ has Kemetic roots, and it doesn't stop there. Anpu, the ancient Kemetic guardian of the dead, the divine guide of souls, became Anubis. Again, Hellenization here. Asar, the resurrected king, the lord of the afterlife, became Osiris. Again, you see the Hellenization, thanks to Alexander the Mad King. The names changed, the languages changed, the cultural wrappers changed, but the concepts, resurrection, divine judgment, the immortal soul, salvation, sacred law, those were African first, and they didn't change. Or were they changed and then repackaged and given back to us? Now let's talk about the text comparison found in African origins of our faith, because this is where Dr. Akua's scholarship gets undeniable. The Book of the Dead, or more accurately called the Book of Coming Forth by Day back in Kemet in those days, contains some of the oldest spiritual writings in human history, dating back over 4,000 years before the Common Era. When you place passages from this text along the passages from the Psalms, the Proverbs, and even the New Testament, the parallels are stunning. For example, the 42 Declarations of Innocence, or commonly known as the Ma'at, in Kemet Negative Confessions, where a soul stands before the divine and declares what they had not done in life. Sounds remarkably like the moral code of Mosaic law. I have not stolen, I have not killed, I have not borne false witness. Does that sound familiar? The concept of Ma'at, divine truth, justice, balance, and cosmic order, is a spiritual foundation of the Kemetic faith. And you can trace that concept directly into the Hebrew concept of tzedek, or righteousness. I don't know if I pronounce that. Tzedek, basically righteousness. Into the also into the Islamic concepts is or Islamic concept of adi, or justice, and into the Christian command to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly, or do unto your neighbors, whatever the saying is. You can see here the vocabulary shifts, but the theology doesn't. So, if this connection is so clear, why don't we know about it? This is where the history gets painful, and where Dr. Akua doesn't flinch. When European colonial powers spread Christianity across Africa and the African diaspora, it was not offered as a conversation, it was delivered as a replacement. The African spiritual traditions were called paganism, witchcraft, and primitive. The names of African scholars, African theologians, African contributors to early Christian thought were systematically erased from the records. Think of Irenaeus of Libya. Just see why. Anyways, this is a story for. I guess I'll have to make this as a follow-up video to this. We talk about Arianism. But here's what they couldn't erase, though, continuing with our, insights of the African origins of our faith. The early church fathers, Tertullian, Origen, Clement of Alexandria, were North Africans. And I say this not to slight them, but I don't want to separate between North, Central, East, whatever. They were just North Africans. Just giving you a geographical mental picture. The theological debate that shaped Christian doctrine happened in Alexandria, Egypt, on African soil. Saint Augustine, one of the most influential figures in all of Christian history, was from what now is Algeria, also in Africa. So Africa was not on the periphery of faith. Africa was the center. And when that center was stripped away, when African people were taught that their ancestors had no God, no spirituality, no sacred tradition, it wasn't just a historical injustice. It was a spiritual crime. And this is why I advocate for all African people to deconstruct from all the religions they've been given. Because that's not who we are. Those are European ways of thinking, ways of worship, and they should stay that way. Because they don't follow us, we follow them. That's a problem. Now, I know some of you watching this may feel uneasy. Maybe you're a committed Christian like Jaden Ivy, or a Muslim, or a Jewish person, or woman, or I don't know, whatever your faith is. And you're wondering, is this attack on my faith? Hear me clearly. No. Dr. Akua himself is a Christian. From what I can gather from reading this book, he approaches this work from a place of love for the Most High and love for the African people. What this research does is actually deepen faith because it answers questions that colonialism tried to make unanswerable. Did my ancestors know God before someone came and told them who God was? The answer, backed by thousands of years of African sacred text, is yes. Your ancestors were actually, or your ancestors weren't spiritually empty. They weren't waiting to be saved by a foreign religion, a foreign savior, or just a foreign deity. They were already in conversations with the divine. Understanding that doesn't diminish your faith. It grounds it. It gives you roots deep enough to withstand any storm. Perhaps the most powerful thread in Dr. Akua's work is his call to unity. He doesn't want this knowledge to divide Christians from Muslims or the religious from the spiritual. He writes about seeing symmetry, unity, and harmony in all sacred texts, where others see only division, and I can attest to that because in the past I've attacked Christianity. I still do. I still criticize it. But Dr. Akua's vision is a Pan-African spiritual unity. The recognition that regardless of which tradition we practice, we are all drinking from the same river, a river that began from the motherland, Africa. That river doesn't belong to anyone, not to any one religion. It just belongs to humanity. And perhaps reconnecting to that one source, that original African wellspring of spiritual truth, is exactly what this fractured world needs. So now, get yourself a copy of this book. It's not a big book. 3 hours, you're done reading it. But don't read it one time. Read it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. You will get a lot of learning from this book. And you guys seen before that I do have a library over here, and I've shown you some of the books that I read, but I've never recommended a book until this video. And this right here, I'm recommending for you guys to go read. At this point, it doesn't matter if you're African or not, if you're African American or not, if you're Jamaican, whatever. But this book should belong to your library. Because number one, it doesn't attack your faith. It's not going to tell you to go change your faith. It's just going to show you where your faith started. And I think this is a gem. Let your young ones know about it. Teach them. I like the cover. I think this is I forgot. I don't remember what let me see if it's at the back. No, I forgot. Is this? It's not Ra. It's Pata. I believe this is Pata. Good book. I mean, if I could get a chance, I would bring Dr. Akua to the channel, and we can have a sit down, because I do have some things I would like to ask him, and I'll try. I'm not making any promises. I'll try to find his contact and see if we can have a dialogue. But anyways, I know it's been a minute. I just trying to revamp the channel into doing more educational, scholarly stuff that will help you instead of me just reacting to videos and calling out Christians and that. We'll still have some of that here and there, but I've come to the realization if all I do is condemn and criticize without teaching, then it doesn't help you. So I'll try to teach some African history. Not a lot, I'll say that, but review books that I read and find useful. So look up for new videos. I don't know when I'll be posting them, but yeah. So, there you have it. A Window into the African Origins of Our Faith by Dr. Chike Akua. If this video opens something in you, a question, a hunger, a long overdue conversation, that's the point. Get the book, read it for yourself, sit with the side-by-side comparisons, let the ancient words of Kemet speak to you directly. Because knowledge of self is the beginning of everything. Drop a comment below. I want to know, did you grow up knowing about the African roots of your faith, or is this brand new information for you? Like the video if it moved you, share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe, because we're just getting started. Until next time, walk in truth, walk in your history, walk in power. Hotep. I'm out, y'all.